and welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Welcome back, everybody. Another episode here on Real Estate Mogul MD. Today, we have an awesome person with 27,000 followers on their Instagram. We haven't talked about that yet, but that's awesome. I'm excited about that for her. And she's also a chiropractor, a hormone and gut health coach, and an entrepreneur. Today, we're speaking with Dr. Lindsay Banks. Lindsay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Right. Yeah, and I'm just so excited. First of all, and congratulations to you on that 27,000 followers on the Instagram. I mean, that's a big feat. I don't know if a lot of listeners out there are have been in that social kind of platform, but that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely when you get more followers, it does open up more opportunities and doors and things of that nature. Some people do see it as more of a vanity metric, but it does help bring about opportunity. So actually, I ended up working with a coach that helped me gave me some tips on how to structure my posts and things of that nature. And that really helped my following pretty much explode. So
awesome. And, from the get-go, I can tell from your page too, it's intentional. And I talk about this a lot too, the idea of attention and intention. And you've given this attention intentionally, and I can tell that in your posts. And the biggest thing, Lindsay, is there's so much consistency in this. It's awesome. So you've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah, I have. I got on, I was late to Instagram, but I've been on there still been about 6 years or so. And I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Sometimes it can be a little daunting and exhausting, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you have all these things to do as well. But one thing that I love the word intentional, and that's what I do with all of my posts. I'm very intentional. And as a chiropractor, I'm also an educator as well. What I try to do with every one of my posts is I think about what is the goal for this post, right? I want to teach somebody something. So I'm going to teach you something. And then also I'm going to give some type of call of action, like comment or check the link in my bio or what have you. And I found the more that I educate and really provide value, then that has helped more people, come to my page. Like, for example, if you have a particular post and it goes viral, right? And people flood to your page, if you don't have information and content on your page that is going to capture their attention, then they may come to your page and look, but then they're going to leave. They're not going to follow. They're not going to take any action. And so I was very intentional to make sure that I had a lot of quality content on my page to make sure people pay attention and they actually want to stay engaged with me.
That's awesome. So the intentional piece is giving away that free knowledge, sharing that knowledge, and always being intentional about including a call to action as well, too.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, that's awesome. And again, that shows all the way through. And I love the consistency on it. And I know we don't want to get hung up on this, but I just wanted to make sure that I congratulated you on this because we haven't spoken before this conversation. And I mean, there's so much that goes into this. I know the hard work that goes into it. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And there's more to it than vanity. I promise you, because that intention and attention to detail, what you give energy grows. So in this world of being able to provide that content, when it means something to somebody, you're giving them value, and there will be an exchange of value at some point. So there is, I would say, definitely keep going, keep it up. And keep rocking on that. But back to medicine, huh, Lindsay? You are a chiropractor and also like a wellness coach too. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in medicine and where you're at now.
Okay, definitely. So I've been in the health and wellness field for about 15 years now. Actually, my chiropractic graduation date is coming at the end of this month. So August 23rd, 2008 is when I graduated with my doctorate in chiropractic. So by profession, like you said, I'm a chiropractor, and I also hold additional certifications. So I'm a certified personal trainer. And then I'm also recently, about a year ago, I'm a certified functional medicine practitioner as well. So that's where the hormone and health gut coaching comes into play. So a little bit about my professional life right now. I currently own my practice is Healthy Motives 365, located in Houston, Texas. And my slogan is finding health in every day, hence the 365. My goal is to just educate people on how to incorporate healthy habits simply into their everyday lifestyle. So eventually it becomes second nature. Really what I do is I work with women in helping them optimize their health through holistic means of healing. So I really focus on things like mindfulness, nutritional status, movement, restoration. That's super important because nowadays we're super busy and we really don't take the time to rest. And then also really optimizing their natural detoxic processes in their body, because we get overwhelmed with all the things that we're exposed to in the environment. And so in my business, I offer chiropractic care, health coaching in a virtual format. I also do hormone and gut health testing. So that's where the functional medicine services come in. And then I also do health workshops for groups and organizations. So that's kind of one part of my professional life. Mm-hmm. Another part of my professional life is I've actually worked in higher education for about 10 years. So that's where the love for education and providing that educational content in all my posts comes from, because that's kind of like doctor literally means teacher. So it's like second nature to me. So I also currently serve in a college here in Houston as a department chair of health sciences. So I currently do practice part-time, about 20 hours a week. And then I also work in higher education. So it's a really good balance for me because, first of all, I'm not doing the same thing all the time. And it just creates, basically the two really play off of each other. And so it's a great balance for me.
And that's awesome. It's awesome here too. And you said slogan, and I want to hear, when you say that, I want to hear you say like mission or vision. So what did you say your slogan was again?
Finding health in every day.
So it's almost like a vision or a mission kind of piece. And it's like, that's what we're about. So it's, as I heard you say that, it's not that it downplayed it when you said slogan, but it definitely had more of a marketing twist as opposed to, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. Right. So it's almost like I want to hear you say vision or mission when you say finding health in every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. And when you, so coming through on the chiropractic side, are you a W-2 employee now in chiropractic?
So my business is mine. So my business is set up as an S corp essentially.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And from graduating, did you work with somebody else, or did you go?
So my journey from like graduation to where I'm at now. So when I started chiropractic school, I started in my oldest son, who is now 19, was 9 months old. Wow. Right. And then when I graduated, I was actually pregnant with my second son. So I got married right in the middle of chiropractic school. Right. So once I graduated, about 2 months later, I had my first son. So I took a couple months off. And then the January after I graduated, I actually started out as an independent contractor. And so essentially what that was is I had my business within another chiropractor's office, essentially. And so I paid my overhead to him, but I was able to use all of the equipment and things of that nature. And really that experience was just to give me some experience of what it's like to have a business without all of the risk on me, essentially. And so I did that for about 9 months. Got comfortable, like, hey, I can do this. And then one of the other doctors that I graduated with, we actually opened up a space together where we shared our overhead, but our businesses were completely separate. So that allowed us to have our own practice, but we were able to cut our expenses in half. So then we were able to grow our businesses, market together and things of that nature, but still have our separate business. So it was a pretty cool experience. And that's really how my career started off. And I did that co-shared for about 5 years.
And that's an awesome approach. And I hear that a lot. And I actually encourage that a lot too. So coming out and kind of like testing the waters, learning the process with somebody else, almost understudying, almost like a residency kind of thing, where you're an understudy, you're learning the process, you're able to be an intrapreneur. in order to be an entrepreneur. So you're learning inside of the business in order to be outside of the business.
Exactly.
And that's a great way. And I say that's like taking these little sniper shots. I could take this little sniper shot that, hey, is this going to work? Because if it doesn't, guess what? I've got another bullet and I still got my gun. But if it does work, then I can maybe get a bigger gun, and I work my way up to dropping bombs in a way, right? So if this works, boom, this is it, right? So I love that approach. And now kind of into the entrepreneur world of it, you've got the split of the two different professional sides. What stands out to you the most? I mean, what do you love most about your current position? Kind of, it sounds to me like you have the freedom to be, to do what you're passionate about.
Yeah. So the thing I love about the position I am now in my career, first and foremost, my kids are older, so it gives me a lot of more freedom and flexibility. And that had really having small children and building a practice in my youth was one of the reasons why I started to venture into higher education, because it came a little bit overwhelming having, 2 kids under the age of 5 and running a business and things of that nature. So where I'm at now, I have a lot of freedom and flexibility because, like I said, I am a department chair of health sciences, and it gives me a lot of freedom and flexibility to be able to still practice. And the two play off of each other because my entire division is all about health sciences, right? So even in my current position, I have opportunities where I can do workshops and talk about chiropractic and talk about hormone and gut health in an educational factor. And then I also have my chiropractic side where I'm able to still be in the profession that I earned my doctorate in, but again, still be able to create other opportunities from me. So both of them pretty much, they're kind of like, they're the foundation to everything else. Like chiropractic has opened so many doors for me. It actually is what helped me to be able to, work in higher education. And so really right now where I'm at, the two just really play off of each other.
That's amazing. And in this journey, Lindsay, what would you say has been your biggest challenge?
Well, really, my biggest challenge in life didn't necessarily come from, I feel like, my career. It was more of a personal challenge that pretty much helped me more so in my professional life. And I'll give you an example. So in 2013, one of my close cousins passed away. And it was very tragic and it was very unexpected. And it really threw me for a loop. And so before that time, I was really focused on my physical health, right? Exercising, things of that nature. But that really forced me to prioritize my mental health and mental wellness as well. So at that point in life, I truly learned about the importance of self-care and how it's truly important to your overall well-being. So I started to incorporate more mindfulness. I started to incorporate more downtime and restoration into my busy lifestyle, which is a necessity in any type of, if you want to have longevity in any type of career, especially in healthcare, when you're constantly serving others. So if I wouldn't have went through that experience and I learned really how to take care of my mental health, like the position I am now with all the responsibilities that I have with, I run an entire division and also having my practice and then also being a wife and a mother, it forced me to really find time to relax, have downtime, also create systems in my business so I'm not always having to do everything. And so really that was one of the biggest challenges for me was the loss of that person, which helped me with pretty much, like I said, taking better care of myself so I can have longevity in my career.
That's amazing. That almost feels like it triggered almost like a burnout kind of thing.
It did. It really triggered it because before then, I had never, after I lost my cousin, I started having like anxiety attacks and panic attacks, right? Mm-hmm. So literally where I couldn't breathe and I was constantly on the go and I was doing all these things. And so literally even the birth of my business, Healthy Motives 365, came from me really figuring out a way to save myself, essentially. So every day, let me figure out one thing that I could do to get myself back on track. Because at this time, this is in the middle of my career. I'm already a chiropractor. I'm already a personal trainer. And I'm literally like kind of drowning a little bit. So it's like, if I'm having these issues, I know there are other people, especially other women out in the world that are having these issues. What can I do every day to kind of get myself back on track? And now that was really the foundation for a lot of the health coaching and things that I do in my business with my clients, because I've literally been through some stuff, right? And so now really knowing how to incorporate those things into my lifestyle. So when I coach other women about like, you have a super busy lifestyle, I can relate to that because my lifestyle is busy. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have a career, I've suffered loss, and things of that nature. So it's really helped me in, just helping others essentially.
And that's awesome. And throughout our lives, and we all are going to experience this one way or another, the loss of someone close to us, around us. Mm-hmm. And it kind of like started that process for you, that process of change. And in retrospect, now it's always easy to see in retrospect, but looking back, it's like without challenge, there is no change. Exactly. So without that challenge that you were faced with, you would have kept going on, and then maybe that burnout, overwhelming, could have happened differently and had different outcome.
Most definitely. And yeah. I may have never really even jumped back into entrepreneurship if that would have never happened, so. Yeah.
So we've got the chiropractic piece, the coaching piece on the other side here. You've got time, a wife, mother, all of this stuff going on. How do you find time above all of that now to invest? I mean, that's got to be a piece of all of our lives, right? So tell us a little bit about where you're at, like with investing.
So as far as finances are concerned, my dad, even when I was young, I was probably about 12, he would always talk to me about finances, right? So he always talked about making sure, before even talking about investments, just living within my means, paying myself first, and making sure that you're keeping your debt low, right? One thing that I've done, so I started investing when I was younger, probably in my 20s. I was in my 20s. I actually work with a financial planner currently, and she helps me to really diversify my investments to ensure that my retirement grows, right? When I was at a previous college and I ended up leaving there, I had some money that I needed to figure out what to do with, right? Because I could leave it at the company, but we know that wasn't a good idea because it's just sitting there. It's not really growing. And so when I relocated, I actually started, like I said, working with a financial planner to help me with my retirement income and, like I said, diversify my assets. On top of that, the college that I work for, which is very rare, they still have a pension. And so, which they actually, so every month, a certain amount of my income is allotted into the pension, and then they actually match it as well, which is amazing. So I have the pension fund. I also have my individual retirement accounts as well. And so those are really the main ways that I'm like really, as far as my financial investments and things of that nature. As far as just finances in general, when it comes to really making sure that I'm creating a good foundation for myself, one of my things really is to get out of debt, right? One of the major things as a physician or a doctor is you have student loans, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was fortunate enough, again, when it comes to the college, it's a state institution or a public institution. So a lot of people don't realize whenever you've heard of the public service loan forgiveness plan, right? So a lot of people just think that is strictly for like nonprofits, right? But if you are somebody that works in K through 12, if you are working higher education and it's a public institution, it actually qualifies as well. So within 2 years, I'm fortunate enough that my student loans will be forgiven. And the thing about that is this program is tax exempt. So some of the other programs that actually forgive your taxes, forgive your loans, you still have to pay a tax bill, which, I mean, it could be a pretty large tax bill. But with this program, I actually won't have a tax bill. So that's a big part of my plan, because when those loans get forgiven, that's going to free up more discretionary income to be able to invest more. And so from then I'm looking into getting into real estate, investment properties, and things of that nature.
Now you're talking my language. Tell me more about this real estate thing, Lindsay. What I love seeing, like on the front end of this piece, like where are your first touches and where are you first seeing this and where are you hearing people talking about this? Real estate.
So I'm really just now kind of getting into the real estate thing, right? Love it. In reality, in hindsight, I think about because right now we have, of course, our primary residence that we live in. So currently, I put a lot of extra towards my principal because we want to get it paid off sooner. So that way we can possibly use that as a rental space or a investment property. But in hindsight, if I could go back, I probably would have got a multifamily first, right? I would have got a multifamily first, lived in one of the units, right? And then fixed up the other ones and used that as investment investment money. But again, in hindsight, we live and we learn. So whenever we do get to the point where we're ready to get that investment property, it more than likely will be a multifamily. I'm trying to educate my oldest son, he's 19, on this so we can maybe start a company together and start doing some things. So that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to the real estate. Like I said, I'm just now in the beginning, but it's a dream and a goal of mine. And so that's where I'm looking to go at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned that multifamily thing, and that scenario I call house hacking, and where you're living in one side and renting out the other. And I mean, that can happen so much, and so much of it too. So often, I'm sorry. And so much of it too, Lindsay, is so many of us don't know or are unaware of these things that we could do. Because so even all the way back, say you're in med school, you can do this where you're renting a space and then you rent the other rooms as long as the lease allows it. And these days with Airbnb, you could be subletting and then Airbnb-ing certain spaces of your rental as well too. So there's ways that you could build these arbitrage from the get-go, right? Yeah. I'm going to be paying this rent anyway, and I can turn what I love as an entrepreneur is turning expenses into income. Mm-hmm. If I can have this creation or this flip of mind to say, okay, this is an expense, how can I make this an income? And that house hacking piece is a wonderful way of doing it. So even having a duplex or even renting, there's so many ways that we can do this. I think that's great. And you starting with your 19-year-old son too, and now you're planting the seed, which we always talk about as a big thing. You plant the seed, curiosity grows the seed. And if it's around him, if it's in his life, then it's more likely for him to grasp it and take off running with it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've really, like I said, my dad pushed it when I was younger. And so everything that my dad taught me, now I've taken that and learned even more about it, even as far as going to the point where getting a family trust, right? So I personally don't own anything, my trust owns it. So that way, when things are passed down to my children, it's protected and things of that nature. But even with him, my goal is for, at the beginning of next year for him to go ahead and start his Roth IRA. So again, you're starting to grow that at 20. Just think about by the time he's my age, you know what I mean? I mean, he could be a millionaire, Yeah,
watch this. Roth IRA. So if you take that Roth IRA means that it's taxed before it goes in. Mm-hmm. So it grows and will not get taxed again as long as the laws stay the way that they are. And I was looking at it for our children. We do the same thing. So we fully fund their Roth. Our children are actually employees of our business. Mm-hmm. So we're able to fully fund their Roth because they have an actual earning early on. So funding this Roth, and just disclosure, I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not any of that stuff. So I'm not advising you guys to do this. I'm advising you to go figure out how to do it. That's
right. There you go.
Right? So in this path, if you take, I believe it was $25,000, and if it is 12% compounding interest, by the time that these guys are 50, we're talking, somebody correct me on the math here, but we're talking over $20 million.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That is crazy. Let that set in for 1 second. So then all our real job is to, if you were to set somebody up like this, is to teach them how to be good people.
Good people, and don't blow it. Don't blow the money.
Yeah. And how to earn it. That's the big thing. If you learn how to earn it, even if you did blow it, you could come back, you could earn it back. Not saying I want anybody to go out and blow 20 million, but at the same time, it's teaching, then it's back to the fundamentals of just teaching how to be a good person, right? The golden rule. What does that mean? Being humble, caring, loving, forgiving, showing grace. I absolutely love these things. And that's what it comes down to. We're set on this path. I'm certain your father has done a wonderful job doing this with you. And now I'm sure you and your husband are doing this with your children, right? Of teaching this path. And if we can pass this along to our children as we learn it, it's exponentially growing this knowledge and experience that we're creating generationally.
And I think ultimately for me, or for every parent, that should be the goal, right? I've never been the one to understand, like, when your kids get a certain age or you want them to struggle. For me,
kick
like,
them out. Get them out.
I want to teach them responsibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Responsible adults, good people, right? But the goal is for, ultimately, you want your kids to do better than you, right? You want to create generational wealth for your family. And so that way, when your kids grow up, they're not necessarily having to struggle. They can really explore the world in their life and do things that they truly love and enjoy and are passionate about. And I think if more people could have that set up, the world would ultimately be a better place. Because right now, everybody's just mad, upset, stressed out. They hate their jobs. You know what I mean? And so if more people could have that opportunity, really, like I said, the world would just be a better place, you know? And so
there in of itself maybe a whole nother hour of conversation in this piece, Lindsay. And I'm sure so many people listening can, I mean, there's two different directions here. Even though we give somebody something, it doesn't change who they are or the choices they make. We've all been blessed with forgiveness in our lives. This beautiful, beautiful thing of forgiveness. And, we've also been blessed with the freedom of choice, free will of choice, right? Mm-hmm. So even though I've been blessed with this life and opportunity, I'm also blessed with the choice of free will. So now I have the choice of what do I want to do, what do I want to do. And we don't always make the right choice. Therefore, we don't always go down the right path. So even if we provided certain things in certain situations, it's not going to be the one-all fix-all. But it comes back down to, Lindsay, as long as I have that stable home and I'm consistent with my children and I'm showing them the way to live right, not just telling them, I'm showing them, they're seeing it in me, then that's where we have a change in the world, where it's like, I can offer you this opportunity and you have this solid foundation as a person to work with that foundation, because money amplifies the good and it amplifies the bad.
Oh, most definitely. It just really shows who you are.
If we go out and I set my children up so by the time they're 50, they got 20 mil in the bank and they're just horrible people. Guess what? I've hurt the world.
Right.
You know, so it's crazy. Times. I mean, yeah, you could think about it. And it's so frustrating for me. It's like, I'm the kind of person who I get so frustrated because I'm a rule follower. I follow rules. And it takes so much time and it's so frustrating. And, you know, people don't trust me. And it's like, because of other people making bad choices that we have to face this in our lives. But like I say, coming back to it, this is an awesome path where we're setting our children up for positive growth, to being good people. And part of that is in the home is educating them, real estate, investing, finances, chasing your passion, all of these things. And I absolutely love it. That is going to create positive change in the world.
Yeah. And all of that starts at home. We cannot put that off on other people to be responsible for teaching our children financial literacy. You know, people talk about it needs to be in the schools, which I do agree it does, but we need to take responsibilities at home. And one thing which you mentioned when you talked about freedom of choice, it made me think about something that I read in a book one time. It said that we can have freedom of choice or we can have freedom of discipline, right? And so I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, freedom of choice, like you said, we have the freedom to choose and do whatever we want to. So if we can make a lot of money and we can spend it on whatever, we can help other people or we can be selfish with it, right? But when it comes to freedom of discipline, it's really disciplining yourself to do the work now. So say, for example, taking your money and investing it, right? Taking your money and using it in a way that is going to grow for future benefit. So that's the freedom of discipline. You may be sacrificing now, right? But in the long run, it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit your children. And so that's really the freedom of discipline. Right now, I could take $100 and just do whatever with it, or I can be disciplined enough to invest that and use that in a way that's going to grow exponentially. So in the future, I'm going to benefit for it even more. And so again, I would rather have the freedom of discipline than the freedom of choice. I
love that. Let me give it this analogy. Freedom of discipline to me is, picture yourself in a bowling alley. And when I've got little kids, we put these little things up in the gutters called the bumpers. That's discipline, right? So I can give you freedom inside of these two bumpers. And guess what? At the end of the day, we're going to do? We're going to attack the target. So no matter what, as long as you stay between those bumpers of discipline, you've got freedom to do what you need to do, that choice of free will, right? And then we're all going to get better hitting the target.
Yes, I like that, because you still get a little bit of room to explore,
That's awesome. Yep. And setting clear expectations and all of that stuff helps us align our paths. Freedom in discipline. I love that. Absolutely. So in this real estate world that you're in, you're talking about paying down your current path, paying down your current property and getting some debts paid off, and then focusing you and your family on the next purchase. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you feel like is still challenging in order for you to get to that point where you need to go? Like how could we start taking action sooner? Like what is missing?
I don't think it's necessarily something that's, well, I would say maybe that really the knowledge on the exact path that I should go in. You can never know the exact path that you're supposed to go, but really just figuring out the best way. Say, for example, if I, want to go ahead and start like, okay, let's go ahead and get an investment property. What's the best way to fund it, right? Do I want to take equity out of my current home? Do I want to take time to save it? So then that means I have to put it in some type of higher interest yield account to help the money grow. So really for me, it's more so about the method of how do I want to go about approaching this, right? But again, at this point, there are some other things that I would prefer to take care of. Because you think about it, like if you have credit card debt or if you have any type of consumer debt that is, 10% plus, ideally your best return on investment is getting rid of that first, right? So I'm freeing up that. So now I can take that extra interest that I would be paying and use that towards, purchasing another property or something like that. So really for me, it's more so about just figuring out which route that I want to go and really taking care of some of my other things. So that way I can full force, like just straight ahead and focus on that.
Yeah, I love it. And if you don't mind, I would love to encourage you to ask yourself a few questions. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is you're right on the path. And in this direction, not necessarily how do I fund it, but what is it first? Mm-hmm. What do I want first before what I need, right? So what do I want? When I say what do I want to think which exit strategy would align with my values as a person, the time that I have to input now, and the time that I want to input at the exit, or in 5 years, or in 10 years. So when you align your values and your time with that asset class or that exit strategy, that's a great place to start. Then it helps me understand the what I need part. And what I need is how much capital do I need to leverage? Or how much capital do I need to have? How much deployable capital I need to have in order to hit this plan? And the way to get started on this after you're asking yourself these questions is to be curious and be social. Start talking with people and start expanding your associations. Don't be stuck in the circle that you're in. And remember, these are just conversations. When you see people doing certain things on social media, it doesn't mean that they should be doing things. It just means that they're doing things that they want to show you. But right. It's a great way to get out and start having these conversations because we talk things into reality. It starts with a thought, and then we turn them into conversations and actions. And that's going to put us around the people who are doing these things. We learn how to ask certain questions, what things we need to know, what we don't need to know. And then we start bumping into opportunities. So what I'd say is just encourage you to figure out that first, the what. What's most attractive to me? Is it single family long-term, single family short-term, multifamily short-term, multifamily long-term? So there's like different properties, different ways of income at the time, or is it, hey, I just want to do syndications. I want to be a limited partner so I can learn with general partners until I get my feet wet. And maybe that's something I want to do. So there's so many different paths. So find that path first, and then you understand what you need to do to get there.
Well, I appreciate that. I just took a lot of notes there.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's fun. And I love what you said too about Dr. meaning teach. And I think there's so much value. And even as I'm saying that to you, I'm hearing it and I'm learning it, right? Because I've picked that up from so many other people along the way. And I absolutely love it because as I teach, I learn. And, and then when I throw in those little pieces too, like there's some Jim Rohn in there. Have you ever heard of Jim Rohn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the piece. Expanding associations and limiting associations is just as important too. And when you teach, you learn, like all of this stuff. I love being able to share that with everybody and just give that knowledge because, like I said, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax accountant. I am a real estate investor, but it doesn't mean that I can go and tell you how to be a real estate investor. I can share with you what has worked and what hasn't worked. That's what I love doing.
Mm-hmm. And they say whenever you teach somebody something, like you said, it solidifies that you actually know that information. Because if you're able to break something down and explain it to somebody else in ways that they can actually comprehend it, right? Then that means you really know that information versus just, like, okay, this is what I did. But if I ask you any questions, you can't really explain it to me in any other, fashion.
Oh, I love this. So I'm a licensed real estate agent in a couple of states. My wife is licensed as well, too. And there's this thing called a designated agent and an agent. And what I love is like asking this question, and it's the perfect scenario of, I believe it's Einstein that says, if you know something, then you can explain it simply. If you don't, then you simply can't explain it. Right. So it's this idea, and listening to people explain to me the difference between being an agent for a buyer and a designated agent for a buyer. They can't say it simply. So like, you're not helping me. If you can't explain this simply, you're not helping me because you're still confusing me in the way that you're explaining it. So, but it's a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge. And sometimes we feel like we know things, but we just can't communicate them properly. So maybe we just don't quite have those last little, things connected, right? Is it Hebb's law? What fires together, wires together, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And really, go ahead. Yeah.
No, we just have those last little connections you have to make on the ideas, and then we've got it.
Yeah, then you have that connection, and really, it's all about finding. To me, the best way that I learn is finding something in that information that I can relate it to, or like an analogy or a metaphor, right? That really solidifies the information. In that way, you're like, okay, now it really clicks, and then you're able to share it with somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got this platform. It's called Real Estate Residency. And it's just like when we talked about, you going in as an employee with another company and you're being an entrepreneur in order to be an entrepreneur. There's things that you've got to pick up to do it. In the same way in residency, you're learning your practice, you're learning medicine before you can go out and do it. So real estate residency is something I've put together is very similar to that, but it's in the idea of single family rentals. And what I love about it, so much of that little piece that I just gave you there on values and time, start being social, that kind of stuff is in this platform. And it is free. What I do is I give it away. I want to give it to you, and I would love to get your feedback on it. And it's the basics of it. So you don't have to do it now or tomorrow or next year, but it starts planting that seed and that awareness of, hey, what is a deal, right? And you had mentioned maybe paying off your current residence and renting it out. Well, I would first want to know how well your money is performing in that scenario. Just because it's paid for and you own it doesn't mean it's a good investment. Mm-hmm. So with this platform, it allows you to say, okay, what should my money be doing? Where could it perform better than this? But it's the fundamentals of understanding the values and time, where to find deals, how to look at deals, what questions to ask. So I'll definitely share that with you.
Oh, that's amazing. I would love that.
Real estate residency.
I love to educate and I love to learn. I love to soak up knowledge. So
yeah, awesome. And I would love to see that go, down the generational ladder to your son, and growing through this together. And it's just a joy. And I always tell everybody, like, it gives me goosebumps to think back on the day where I had this epiphany of renting out single family properties. And like, I could leverage capital, and then they pay rent, they service. And no, it's like, And I feel like I got so mad. Like, why didn't somebody teach me this before? Yeah. And then in hindsight, I look back and maybe somebody did teach me. Maybe I just wasn't listening. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't able to hear what they were saying, or maybe it was around me the whole time. I just wasn't ready. So we all have our own journey, but wherever it may lead, it's all about the people around you that help you get there.
And I think that I love that you just said that. It's like we all have our own unique journey, right? And so a lot of times what I think about, like if something doesn't happen as quickly as you thought it should, or you want it to happen, for me, it's like, okay, there were still some growth lessons you needed to learn before you got to that point. Because if you would have got it too soon, you may have lost it, right? Or you may have not did right by it. So it's all about you going through life, enjoying the journey and learning the lessons you need to learn. So when the opportunities that are meant for you come to you, you are prepared for them, right? And you're prepared for them and they're in alignment with, like you said, your values and what you want to do with your life.
Yeah. Some of God's greatest gifts are the gifts we never get.
Yes.
And
you know what? One thing that just popped into my mind when you said that is, have you ever heard of a speaker? His name is Les Brown.
Oh, come on. That man's laugh. Okay. He doesn't light up a room.
Right. Yeah. Well, one thing that just popped into my mind, that something that he says, and I'm kind of like paraphrasing this, but he said the richest place is the graveyard because it's full of all of the books that were never written, businesses that were never started, and the opportunities that you never took, right? It's literally
on my arms. Yes.
So that's one thing that I think about all the time. And it doesn't matter, even if you try something and you fail, I think that there's really the only real failure is giving up, right? Failures are about learning a lesson, right? So you learn the lesson and then you take that information and then you're able to start from that new information versus starting from where you started from the first time, right? And so I just think that's an amazing mindset to have, to know like, hey, whatever opportunities you want to try, give it a try, because if not, they're going to die with you, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that idea, yes, giving up is failure, right? Everything else is just the next step because you're starting one little inch higher. You're knowing what not to do this next time.
Yeah, you're literally failing forward. Like the most successful people, it's full of failures, right? You fail, and then you figure it out.
That one time.
Right, one time. Yes, that was it. That one time. That's really all it takes is that one time.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that in mind, Lindsay, what would you tell yourself if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself something? What would it be?
I would keep it really simple, right? So I would tell myself to chill out and enjoy the journey. I would tell myself that you're exactly where you're supposed to be and don't put so much pressure on yourself, right? Every single experience that you're going to have in life and you've already had in life is preparing you for the opportunities to come. So enjoy it. Learn from it. Like I say, your life is literally your classroom. It's your curriculum. It's going to teach you everything that you need to know. You just need to pay attention. Get still and just pay attention and listen.
Yes. I love that. The thing I've been telling myself so much this last few months is be patient. Just be patient. Be patient. And it's so important. You are where you should be. We all have our own journeys. You are exactly where you should be with who you should be. And it's our ability or our blessing of this choice of free will, right? That allows us to navigate this path. But being patient, chilling out, and just being focused on what you're doing, and you're bound to be happy, right?
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I had to learn is really, because a lot of times we get to this, I call it, comparison paralysis, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where you're so busy looking at what other people are doing that you're literally paralyzed. You're not moving forward in your own life. And that same energy and effort that you're using to look at what other people are doing, you could be using that same energy and effort to move yourself forward in what you want to do, right? Because just because you're looking at somebody, like, for example, I could look and see what another chiropractor is doing, right? But I can use that for inspiration, right? But I shouldn't become obsessed with that because, their natural strengths and talents may not be my natural strengths and talents, right? And so I can look at what they're doing and use it for inspiration, but ultimately I have to take what I want to do and make sure that it aligns with me. and what, my God-given talents and things of that nature. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, right?
Yes. Be the best you every single day. So if you're the best you every single day, that means I'm comparing me to me yesterday. Right. And that's what matters most. I want to constantly and never stop improving. And that's the old Tony Robbins, can I quote there. And that, I mean, if we leave the listeners with that today, I don't know if it gets any better than that. Constant and never ending improvement, comparing yourself with with yourself yesterday, and enjoy the journey. Be happy, right? Chill out, relax, right, Lindsay?
Absolutely. Trust the process and just keep going.
That's awesome. Thank you for your time today, Lindsay. It's been an absolute pleasure. This way, it's like at the beginning of the conversation. I love it. I have no idea where it was going to go. And I think it was great. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome. And if anybody out there wants to learn more about you or finding health every day of the year, right? In Motives 365, Healthy Motives 365, whether they're in Houston or not, right? They can reach out to you on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Lindsay Banks. It's LINDSAYBANKS. Or they can find you on Instagram as well, too, if they're not already following you, right? With the 27,000 followers. Come on, that's awesome. Dr. Lindsay Banks on Instagram as well.
Absolutely. And they can also, if they want to learn more about my business or reach out to me or stay in contact with me, they can check out my website, same as my name, www.drlindsaybanks.com. They can check out my blog. I share tons of health and wellness information. You can also join my email list to just stay up to date on some of my new products and services. Currently working on a few projects, so I'll be releasing some online courses, ebooks, and things soon. So I'm looking forward to that. Educator, I love to teach. And so I want to make sure that all the information out there is accessible to anybody that wants to access it. So
absolutely. And that's really important too. So thank you for that. And the listeners today, as always, I want to express my gratitude to you and the attention that you've given us today, whether you're in the hospital, in the office building, working out, running, jogging, or even driving, wherever you're at today. Thank you for your time. And most importantly, thank you for your intention being directed towards, right? So your attention today. So thank you. And if you have any questions for us, you have any suggestions for the show, go ahead and send us an email, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. If you'd like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you and chat with you as well, too. But until next time, Real Estate Mogul MD, thank you so much.